Hello dear listeners, and welcome back to my cozy little corner of the internet. My name is Sarah Ashworth, and in the previous episode, Jasper and Eric managed to escape capture and encountered the woman behind the song. In today's episode, we shall continue this intriguing story. So, grab your favourite beverage, sit back, relax, and I shall begin. Chapter 12. Let's end this. Jasper and Eric kept their eyes on the woman while remaining firmly on guard. They knew that their odds of getting out of this situation were slim, but at least they knew that they tried, regardless of what happened next. "Look at you two. So on edge," she remarked as she approached them slowly, gracefully. She was a thing of beauty, that was certain, but there were clear sinister motives underneath. "If only you had listened to me. If only you didn't try to escape. All of this could have been avoided." Eric shook as she made her approach. Hearing her voice on the radio was one thing, but seeing her in person, hearing the clicking of her heels, was almost too much to bear. Jasper stepped in front of Eric protectively and stared the woman down. "I don't know what went down between you two, but it ends. Now." He didn't raise his voice, but his intention was made clear. If she wanted Eric, she would have to go through him. Eric just stared at Jasper in shock. Was Jasper defending him? He remembered Jasper defending him a lot when they were kids, but that was years ago. It had been a long time since anyone defended him, and he was grateful for that. He gave Jasper a smile and stepped out from behind Jasper. "I'm not going back with you," he stated defiantly as he stared her down. "Deal with it." The red-haired woman stopped in her tracks as she heard their words. They were really going to make it difficult for her, weren't they? "Don't make this any harder than it needs to be," she told them. The edge in her tone was gone, replaced with a sincere kind of seriousness that was so heavy it weighed down the air. Jasper and Eric just stared at her. They had heard that tone before in the radio room. It felt off then, and it felt off now. But why? "My orders are to bring you in, conscious or not." The two barely had any time to react before she ran at them and raised her foot as she approached. Jasper quickly moved his hands round in a circle to create a magical shield to defend them. As her foot slammed down, Jasper grimaced as he felt the force of her kick reverberate off the shield. It was a hastily crafted shield, and he knew that it wouldn't be long before it shattered. As she kept up her relentless onslaught, cracks began to form along the shield, and Jasper tried with all his might to keep it up. His nose began to bleed from the effort as more of his energy was expended. Eric saw that Jasper didn't have long left before the shield shattered. He crept out from behind and charged at the woman, pulling his arm back and punching her in the face as he drew close. She winced as Eric's fist struck her hard in the jaw. She stepped back, stunned, and rubbed her jaw. She grimaced and turned towards Eric, glaring at him, her eyebrows furrowed in anger. "You'll pay for that," she seethed as she advanced towards him. Eric stood his ground this time, spurred on by Jasper's act of defiance earlier. He held his fists up, ready to strike again. Jasper saw his chance, and used his magic to throw the damaged shield at her. It struck her in the side, knocking her to the ground as it shattered on impact. Jasper stumbled and fell to his knees, breathing deeply. He still needed to work on his shield spell, and he expended more magic keeping the shield up due to it being hastily created. Still, if it helped to lure her away from Eric, he was happy with that. Eric ran over to Jasper and helped him up. "Are you okay?" he asked him with concern on his face. Jasper nodded as he gave Eric a tired smile. "I'm all right. I just need a minute to recharge," he told Eric as the two looked around. Now that they had a moment, they could see the room more clearly, and at the ship's controls was a man wearing a captain's uniform steering the ship. They thought it was amazing and strange that he was able to steer it so smoothly, despite the excitement in the room. They found that they were distracted for too long as the red-haired woman was back on her feet and making her way towards them. "I tried to be nice," she seethed as she continued to advance towards them. "I tried to make it easier on everyone." The clicking of her heels was louder now as she got closer. "And you had to complicate things." She was right on top of them now, her arms outstretched. Eric quickly shoved Jasper back, and he fell to the ground, dazed. Eric gasped as he was grabbed by her and pulled slightly off the ground. "You forced my hand," she yelled as Eric looked around the room for an escape. She simply scoffed as she started to drag him away. Jasper shook his head as he started to come to his senses and started to stand up. "Let him go," he yelled at her. He had some energy left, enough for one spell anyway. He just had to make it count. He took a breath and started to do the hand gesture for a wind spell, strong enough to get her to loosen her grip on Eric, but not strong enough to cause any damage to the room. He saw her dragging him towards the door, and realized it was now or never. He looked at the gust forming around him and thrust his hands forward, unleashing it at the woman. The wind threw her back into the wall, and she released her grip on Eric. Eric fell back as he was released and stood up. He stared at the woman and headed back towards Jasper, who was leaning against the wall, and helped him up. Thanks, he spoke gratefully as Jasper gave him a wary smile. Are you okay? Jasper asked Eric as he nodded. Nothing's broken, he joked, which earned him a small laugh from Jasper. I'm okay, though. We should get this ship turned around so we can rest. Eric started to help Jasper move towards the controls, but a groan behind them made them pause. They quickly turned around, and Eric stepped in front of Jasper slightly as the woman stood up, except now she looked different. The long, silky red hair was replaced by black hair. The blue eyes were gone, and green ones were in their place. The clothes had changed to a baggy hoodie, jeans, and boots, and she shrank a few inches. She groaned as she stumbled towards them. Eric was ready to fight, but Jasper's eyes went wide as he recognized her. Mel? He called out to her. He couldn't believe that she was here. So did that mean... He shook his head, not wanting to think that his friend would hurt him like that. She stopped in her tracks as she heard her name. She looked down at herself to see that her disguise had gone. Damn it. She let it go on for far too long, and now they knew the truth. You should have heeded my warning, Jasper, she spoke, her voice quivering. Eric stared at her too. He thought he recognized her from school. This was you? He questioned, still trying to keep as much distance between them as possible. I actually thought that she was here. Mel shook her head and continued to approach them. She wouldn't come all the way out here, she admitted with a chuckle. Why lift a finger when she has people to do her dirty work? Jasper wriggled free out of Eric's grip and stepped forward. He was shaking on his feet, but he quickly found his balance. Why, Mel? Why would you do something like this? He demanded. He was angry. He wanted to show he was angry, but he was just too tired. So he settled for disappointment. Why would you do this to me? Damn, that stung. It stung more than it would have if he had just yelled at her, but he had to go for the I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed approach. Mel sighed softly. Because I didn't have a choice, she confessed as she drew closer. My job was to bring Eric in, and no one else was supposed to be involved. But then after that first night, you wouldn't let it go, so I had to get you too. But how were you involved? Jasper questioned her. How were you involved in the kidnapping of people? He tried very hard to keep his anger in. He fought to push back the tears that were forming. You're my friend, Mel. We're in the school paper together, and you're throwing it away for what? Mel just shook her head. She stopped, not even looking him in the eye. Please, don't make this any harder than it needs to be. I can't leave any witnesses, and I didn't want to kill you. This was the only way. Jasper and Eric just looked at each other. There was only silence between them, but they knew what had to be done. Eric took a step back. Mel was Jasper's friend, and he trusted him. Jasper stepped closer to Mel. I'm not going to tell you what to do in this situation, he told her point blank. I want you to make your own decision. But what I will tell you is that we both know my mom works for the Coast Guard, and that she knows I'm missing, and will find this ship. He spoke with an eerie calm that neither Eric nor Mel had heard before. It sent chills down their spines, and Mel stared at him with such terror that it started to scare Jasper himself. But he remained steadfast despite how much the situation hurt. Do with that as you wish. Jasper stepped back towards the wall and leaned against it before slumping down to the floor. Eric looked at Jasper unsure of what to say. He had never seen him like that before. Never heard him talk like that before. It was almost as if something in Jasper broke at that moment. Jasper just looked back at him, his eyes dulled and empty, his face neutral. He seemed tired of the whole thing. Without a word, Eric sat down next to him, and the two waited in silence. The sound of footsteps broke the silence and roused the two from their thoughts. They looked up and saw Mel walking towards the controls. She paused for a moment, contemplating what her next actions would be. She sighed and pushed a button on the controls, which released a disc. When Mel grabbed the disc, the ship worker beside her blinked and looked around, removing the earbuds from his ears and putting them down. "What happened?" he asked as he looked around confused. "Who are you three? Why are you here?" Mel shook her head. "Don't worry about it. Just stop the ship," she told him, not in a commanding way, but in more of a "this is over" way. The man looked at her before he stopped the ship. He wasn't sure what was going on, but he didn't want to get caught up in it. Mel walked over to Eric and Jasper and offered them the disc. "Here, take it." Jasper and Eric just stared at her before Eric reached out and took it. "Thanks." He spoke quietly and gratefully. He was mad that she was responsible for the deaths of the fishermen, but now wasn't the time. He just looked at the disc for a moment before putting it in his pocket. He hadn't decided what to do with it. Yet. The sound of footsteps and voices could be heard as the door burst open and several armed people ran in and surrounded them. "Jasper? Eric?" A familiar voice call could be heard as Jasper's mother ran into the room. "Stand down," she told the armed people. "That's my son and his friend." They nodded and stepped away from Jasper and Eric. She ran towards them and pulled Jasper into a huge hug. Jasper just accepted the hug without complaining at how tight it was. "Are you okay? You were gone for so long, I was worried." "I'm okay, Mom. Just tired," Jasper explained as she released him and helped him up. "I may have overused my magic with a spell I created in haste." His mother nodded. "I've been there. It's nothing a little rest wouldn't fix." She looked over at Eric and offered him a hand too. "Are you all right? I heard you went through a lot as well." Eric smiled and accepted her hand. He stood up and dusted himself off. "I'm okay now," he answered her. "I'm looking forward to getting a decent night's sleep." She gave them a sympathetic smile. "Then let's get you boys back." She put her arms around them and started to lead them outside. They saw a couple members of the Coast Guard talking to Mel. She looked like she was crying, but she didn't put up a fight when they handcuffed her and led her down a ladder to a boat. She sat down and looked up at Eric and Jasper with a guilty smile. "What's going to happen to her?" Eric found himself asking as he watched the boat speed off back to the island. "She'll be questioned about her role in this," Jasper's mother explained. She tried to remain calm for their sakes, but even if she was shocked that Mel was involved in all of this. "After that, well, it depends on her." Jasper didn't say a word about it. He was still in shock about the whole thing. He didn't expect her to be involved in something like this at all. But how well did he really know her? It was a question he found himself asking. Maybe someday he would talk to her and get answers, but not yet. It was still raw for him. As they walked to a ladder attached to an empty boat, they saw several Coast Guards looking over the confused ship workers. They looked like they had woken up from a very long sleep and were starting to catch up on what was happening. There were looks of pure horror on their faces. "Poor guys," Jasper and Eric whispered at the same time. "They'll get the help they need," Jasper's mother reassured them as she urged them down the ladder. The three of them climbed down into the boat, and once they were in it, sped off. The ship was behind them, being escorted back to the island. Eric and Jasper leaned back in their seats. It was over. After so many nights of hearing that song, so many nights of being led to strange places, it was finally over. They let out relieved sighs, exhaustion finally getting to them. They closed their eyes and drifted off into the most peaceful sleep they have had in a while. That's the end of today's episode. I'm glad you all made it this far, because that was quite a showdown. But I don't think anyone, much less Jasper, expected Mel to be involved. Which begs the question, who was the true mastermind and where is she now? Will Eric stay or will he leave the island to avoid something similar? Find out in the next episode.